It is the 11th of August. A number of the day is a small number, but it's a very significant number. 4 is the number Francis heard. And it's not good news today when we're talking again about an increase in the unemployment rate.
Yeah, we have one of the highest unemployment rates in the world. And now we've gone up. So unemployment going up to 33.6% in the second quarter of the year. It's measured quarter by quarter, which is the highest since 2022. So the highest in 4 years. It is up almost a percentage point. And Gareth, for me, this is the number that comes home. The number of employed people is above 16 million. Unemployed, 8,481,000 people are unemployed. And unemployed doesn't mean that you can't work or you just want to sit at home. It means that you actively looking for a job, you want a job, but you can't find a job. And that is more than 8 million people in this country. Add to that, it's called the potential labor force because there are people who, it's a bit complicated, a new way of measuring it on the side of Stats SA, but you can be available but not seeking work. Maybe you've just given up looking for work, or you are seeking work but unavailable. Maybe you've got to look after an elderly parent or something, but you would like a job. If you include those people, you're heading closer to 13 million or a rate above 43%. And some would say that is the real unemployment. It's above 43%. It's just staggering.
Because you've heard the political parties over the years when Stats SA started with this sort of breakdown, this sort of categorization that you just went through. And some of the political parties were saying this is a way to massage the mess. That when you really combine all those things together, it's much higher than this 33.6% that we're talking about. And the one that stands out for me is, and I'm going to use the word discouraged, job seekers, because they have tried, even outside of their sector. I remember doing an interview with a labor lawyer a couple of weeks ago, and it's those people that are the most worrying because they're never going to try and look for work again because they just can't find any type of income.
They've given up.
They've given up.
And how sad, because you don't know for how long they were looking in the first place or what the circumstances were. And people today are really focusing on the fact that women are bearing the brunt of this. Black women are bearing the brunt of this. And we've been talking about GBV. We've been talking, there's a focus on women, but women are the victims here, because I think you are a victim if you really want to work and you really try and you can't. You are stuck in an economy that just simply does not provide a job. And that's why it's especially worrying when there are retrenchments in any sector, because it's not like people can easily find other work. And it's a ticking time bomb. Many see it as that. And we've had social issues. But this is very worrying for a huge range of reasons.
And speaking of those ticking time bombs, if you'd spoken to labor analysts and statisticians and economists when the Q1 numbers came out, just to remind you, and please tell me if I'm correct here, Q1 2026 was 32.7. It's now gone up.
Yes.
But when you break away from the percentages, because people like me can get a bit confused. What makes sense to me, though, is when the economy lost 345,000 jobs in Q1. That ticking time bomb you're talking about, it's not this, as though this caught us off guard. This has been a problem for at least now 6 months.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because actually in quarter two, there were less job losses. Okay, so there's some good news there. There were 16,000 job losses. But then you know what happens? Young people come out of school and 329,000 more people come onto the labor force. So it's not always about how many people are in jobs or not in jobs. It's also about the potential labor force, which is also young people coming up, the rate at which old people are sort of exiting the workforce. So all of that plays a factor. But we had sectors, a whole range of sectors giving up jobs, and some were creating jobs. So trade, I think finance and construction. Construction is good news because that kind of creates infrastructure, the things that companies need.
It creates the things to create
more
jobs.
Yes. And that's many would see it as much better than trade because that's buying and selling things, right? Finance, sometimes we're dealing with intangible financial assets. Construction is good, but jobs were losses in community and social services, mining, agriculture and manufacturing. Just mining, for example, we're still going to have job losses at Venetia because of De Beers. Manufacturing, the factories are saying they can't compete with cheap imports from China. And we can talk about why we have this high unemployment rate, but there are so many structural issues. And the thing for me to focus on is that we've been above 30% now for 5 years. So what happened during COVID, the unemployment rate dropped because everyone gave up looking for work, right? That discouraged thing. But since then, it's been extremely high. And even if you have these fluctuations, we must remember that officially, not even looking at the discouraged workforce, 30%. It's extraordinary.
I'm going to ask, if you don't mind, just to zoom out for a moment, because one of the factors, and yes, there's all sorts of structural problems. We can talk the informal sector where that comes into play here as well. But we often use the terms, especially in news, weak economic growth. And these numbers come out all the time. And I often see on social media, people don't understand what weak economic growth means for a loss of jobs. If people are working, why isn't the economy growing? So what I'm asking rather clumsily is, what comes first? The job losses and then the weak economic growth, or the weak economic growth leading to job losses?
You need economic growth to create jobs.
So
because
that's
remember,
first.
So that would be first for me, because remember, we spoke about people who want to work, but they cannot find work. Now, if the economy is growing, that means your market is growing. So say you have a shoe factory. More people are buying shoes. So in fact, and now I'm contradicting myself, because you would need more people and jobs to buy more shoes,
Sure.
right? But then you would expand, and then you would create more shoes. That would create jobs. Then you'd have more workers in your factory who can then go out and buy not only shoes, but other goods. So you stimulate other factories. So it becomes this upward cycle.
Spiral, yeah.
And why are we not having economic growth? Some would say that enabling environment was broken because, for example, people who wanted to get their goods to port couldn't do that easily if the trains don't work. So they don't invest and expand and do more and then export more. We could have a mining sector that was maybe exporting more than they are now and employing more than they are now. Electricity is fixed, but the smelters that have been shedding jobs for years have been saying nobody can deal with the price of electricity. We also have a legacy where Eskom was mismanaged and there was corruption. And if you want the economy to grow, we often talk about overseas investment, but you also have to have confidence among your businesses here. If you are a business owner, you have to have confidence to say, okay, I'm going to start my second or third car wash. But what areas are you starting those car washes in? Do you have security in those areas?
Do you have water in those areas?
Do you have infrastructure? Yes. And the security is important because people don't want to operate where there's high crime. And now, so we had this legacy of state capture. Now we're seeing the Justice Department and justice officials, prosecution officials involved in something like that. Did you have Faraz Khan, this has come up at the Madlanga Commission, a high-ranking official helping cigarette smugglers or illegal cigarette manufacturers work against other illegal cigarette manufacturers? These people then are not paying tax. They are being enabled. They're affecting the economy. They're affecting their competitors, and they're not being held to account.
It's a masterclass in the issues that lead to weak economic growth, and it's important. I like the way you phrase that as we land this plane for today, because when we cover the news, I mean, I'll just let you see behind the curtain for a second, and how you consume news is we'll talk about the rail issues, we'll talk about the port issues, we'll talk about the Madlanga issues, we'll talk about the corruption, etc. But when as you've so beautifully done now, when you bring it all together, you begin to understand the one does have a knock-on effect on the other, and collectively you have a problem like this.
Yeah, and it's a collective problem. I don't envy the GNU, which, by the way, isn't looking good in terms of transforming this, because unemployment at a 4-year high in the second quarter of this year. Those figures out today.